Welcome to your 2020 National Philanthropy Day.
The fact that we are able to gather virtually this year makes our annual celebration of philanthropy even more important.
If there's anything we have learned over the last 9 months, it is that we are resilient,
ardent,
and limitless in what we can accomplish together.
This day is for you
to honor everything you've done
as we recognize the generous spirit of Northeast Wisconsin.
Yours are the hands working tirelessly throughout our communities to make this world a better place.
As donors and nonprofit leaders, you have faced overwhelming challenges
and overcome adversities we could have never imagined a year ago. We've had to shift our missions, our programs, our mindsets, and our approach in order to meet growing needs in unprecedented circumstances.
You are making a lasting impression on everything you're doing for these communities.
So today is a day to celebrate you.
On behalf of the Greater Green Bay Community Foundation,
on behalf of the Community Foundation for the Fox Valley region,
on behalf of the Oshkosh Area Community Foundation, we are grateful for all you've done.
Thank you for joining us
as we continue to change the world with a giving heart.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I'm Julie Keller with the Women's Fund for the Fox Valley region and the past board president of the Association of Fundraising Professionals of Northeast Wisconsin chapter. On behalf of the 2020 National Philanthropy Day Planning Committee and the AFP-Northeast Wisconsin chapter, thank you for joining us. We are thrilled to share with you an inspirational morning celebrating the good work that makes our world go round. The outstanding philanthropists in our community, followed by a host of local professionals sharing their insights and experiences in steering their organizations through this storm that has been 2020. We are proud to once again host National Philanthropy Day, albeit virtually. It looks a little different for all of us this year. The Association of Fundraising Professionals' mission is to advance philanthropy through advocacy, research, education, and certified programs. AFP's focus is on the practice of effective and ethical fundraising. There are over 30,000 members and 230 chapters that raise over $100 billion annually. And we are proud to have an active and robust chapter right here in Northeast Wisconsin. So let's find out, for those of you in the crowd today, who is an AFP member. We're going to put a poll up. Through the magic of technology, we'll have a poll, and we encourage all of you to answer our poll here, and we'll see what we have. Look at that, we have a lot of members. Oh, we have people missing out on the fun too. And we have people who want to be members. So there will be a way for you all to learn more about membership for those of you who are not members. Our membership is nearly 100 right here in Northeast Wisconsin, and it's always growing. We have a volunteer board of 16 members that ensures our chapter is providing our fundraising community with quality programming and educational opportunities, so we all continue to grow and advance the missions at each of our organizations. We have been designated as a 10-star chapter by AFP International, and chapters receiving the 10-star status are awarded for professionalism within their fundraising and public awareness of the importance of philanthropy. And just 1/3 of AFP chapters are named 10-star chapters. So we are one of the select few groups to hold this honor, and we are very, very proud of that. If this sounds like an organization you would like to be a part of, we invite you to join us. We have a broad network of colleagues for you to connect with, a variety of professional development events, and several opportunities for you to get involved to serve our community, such as National Philanthropy Day. If you are interested, please stay with us until the end of the presentation today, and we'll share a special offer on becoming an AFP member. And I will say we are having a lot of fun this year, even though we're doing a lot of things virtually. Our programming committee has done a wonderful job on keeping us all engaged and continuing to learn, so thank you. Now I would like to introduce Greg Vandenberg, Director of Giving and Community Engagement for U.S. Venture.
Welcome to National Philanthropy Day, the 2020 at-home version. I'm Greg Vandenberg, Director of Giving and Community Engagement for U.S. Venture. And as a sponsor of this event, and as a personal believer in learning about philanthropy, doing philanthropy, I'm excited that we're all able to be together virtually. I want to first show my appreciation to each and every one of you. With the pandemic, the economic situations that have occurred. We know that your nonprofits have greater needs than ever before. You're serving more clients than ever before, and yet revenues are tighter than ever. Without people being able to be gathering, I know that your fundraising events have taken a hit. And so I just want to show my appreciation for staying strong through this really difficult time, continuing to have your passion and your belief in helping others drive you. And most of all, that to know that we as funders are behind you, and however we can help to better invest and support your organizations, we just want to cheer you on. If you were at this event last year, you may have heard me say this already, but it is something that really, I would say, has been somewhat of a calling on my life. And there's an ancient text that says, we are called to go to those who have riches, and we are to implore them to be generous so that they can take hold of real life. And that ancient text for me has been something that has caused my passion for my career, but it also shows what a sacred work it is that you do. I think oftentimes those of us as fundraisers and people who are raising money are often just seen as being focused on the money. And I want you to understand that it is sacred, the work that you're doing, and that our community and those in need are better off because of the important work that you do. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Thank you so much, Greg. And thank you to US Venture for support of National Philanthropy Day and so many nonprofits in our community. We're grateful for this wonderful community. And now I would like to kick off the 2020 National Philanthropy Day Awards. So our focus, as I said, for the AFP chapter is on professional development. And each year, our chapter provides the opportunity for one member to attend the AFP International Fundraising Conference free of charge through the Chamberlain Scholarship. This application process requires interested individuals to meet a number of eligibility requirements and complete an application. So I want to thank my board colleague, Crystal Harrison, for leading the selection process this year. And I'm happy to announce that Leslie Coleman with the Girl Scouts was the recipient of the 2020 Chamberlain Scholarship. She attended in quotes in Baltimore virtually last spring. So congratulations to Leslie, and we are really excited that we are able to offer these professional development opportunities to our members. So now it is time to honor those very special philanthropists and individuals who give so much of their time, talent, and treasure to support the many needs in all of our communities throughout Northeast Wisconsin.
Good morning. I'm Becky Belanger, and I'm proud to be serving as the president of the AFP-Northeast Wisconsin chapter. It is an honor to represent the chapter today to present this year's National Philanthropy Day Awards. Knowing the important role philanthropy has played in our communities in recent months, it seems especially meaningful to recognize these generous leaders this year. Just because we're meeting virtually does not mean that we in attendance can't demonstrate our congratulations and well wishes to our honorees. Please use the chat box to show your support and let our recipients know how much you appreciate them. And now for our awards. The Outstanding Fundraising Professional Award is presented to an individual fundraising professional who practices his or her profession in an exemplary manner. The recipient must have at least 5 years of professional fundraising experience, evidence of quality of leadership, and being a team player, a commitment to continuing professional development, and commitment to fundraising and philanthropy through volunteer service and financial support of nonprofit organizations. Nominated by Encompass, this year's Outstanding Fundraising Professional Award recipient is Tracy Arndt.
I nominated Tracy because she's just an awesome coworker and she is so deserving of this award. Tracy believes strongly in the mission of Encompass, that all children matter. So every day she works hard to fulfill the mission in the way that she can. And the way that she does it is through donor relationships and writing grants, going out into the community, and just telling the story of Encompass. And she does a great job of telling that story so that people understand the need that there is at Encompass. The difference she's made over those years in fund development is amazing. The amount of money that comes into Encompass through her efforts that just helps drive all of the programs. And Encompass just would not be the same without Tracy going out into the community and sharing the message.
I found out about this award one day when I came to work, and my coworker called me into our boss's office, and she said, "We have some really great news." And I thought it was about the campaign we were conducting, but it was about this award. I was literally stunned. I was speechless, and I have never thought of myself in this way at all, so I was really surprised. One of the biggest challenges I face as a fundraising professional is actually messaging. We serve so many different kinds of families. We serve families who are affluent. We serve essential workers. We serve people who are struggling, people who live in poverty, children that are homeless. Every child deserves a great start in life. What I really hope for Green Bay is that we work together to support our youngest generation, because these are the children who really are our future. I would like to thank you for this recognition and affirmation of the work that I've done for Encompass. I'm really humbled by this honor. My son was cared for by Encompass staff over 30 years ago, and this is a very small way for me to repay them for the wonderful support that I received as a parent. So thank you again so much.
The Outstanding Philanthropic Corporation Award is presented to a corporation or its corporate foundation that has demonstrated outstanding commitment through financial support and through encouragement and motivation of others to take leadership roles in philanthropy and community involvement. Nominated by Fox Valley Technical College, this year's Outstanding Philanthropic Corporation Award recipient is Thrivent.
Thrivent's partnership model have transformed the relationship between Thrivent and FVTC into a relationship of true collaboration. They have created the opportunity for us to network with leaders across the country, network with leaders in our local service areas, and opportunities to network with leaders in the Twin Cities. This partnership allowed us to identify and implement best practices and targeted strategies to advance the success of all of our students. Approximately 4 years ago, when we started this journey, we envisioned a process that will be in place to help us serve every single person that approach us, and we can identify that they have a need for the service we have to offer. So far, with Thrivent's help, we have served over 300 students to see their full potential. Thrivent is a leader in community giving, and they have developed the necessary mechanisms to ensure that this process is sustainable. They believe in finding solutions for today, but they're also committed to finding solutions for tomorrow and the future. We are committed to continue this partnership with Thrivent, and we would like to celebrate Thrivent for the amazing work that they have been doing over the years. But we would also like to celebrate Thrivent for their flexibility, their innovation, and their commitment to equity. That is the way forward, and the way that they have been doing the work and collaborating with not just us, but other community members have given us hope that there is a new way of collaboration and partnership with funders and service providers. I would just like to end to say thank you to Thrivent, thank you to the leadership, thank you to Mike, thank you to Jenny and the entire team at Thrivent for the amazing community outreach that you have been doing and the amazing work that I'm sure you will continue to do. Thank you.
We are humbled that the Fox Valley Technical College Foundation took time to nominate us for this award. We highly value Thrivent's partnership with Becky Belanger and Rayon Brown. We can't do our work without wonderful nonprofits like the Fox Valley Technical College Foundation. This is also a wonderful honor for my team, Thrivent, and me. It validates Thrivent's trust-based approach to philanthropy, including our emphasis on being responsive to our partners and their needs, investing in relationships, and collaboration. Generosity is at the heart of everything Thrivent does. For over 100 years, Thrivent has been helping people build their financial futures in order to live more generous lives. At Thrivent, we believe that humanity thrives when people make the most of all they've been given. That's why we help people achieve financial clarity, enabling lives full of meaning and gratitude. We aim to inspire generosity with our clients and employees. Thrivent has always had a solid commitment to our corporate communities. We feel it's important to meet the evolving needs of our communities and be a good corporate citizen. Given Thrivent's role as a purpose-driven financial services organization, we are particularly called upon to acknowledge and address the economic inequities that set families and communities back for generations. We know that nonprofits provide valuable support and vibrancy in our communities, and it's our honor to join with them to make a difference. Due to COVID-19, Thrivent's giving has actually increased this year by $4 million. This demonstrates our commitment to respond to community needs and our partners. One of Thrivent's gifts has made an impact on the success of the Fox Valley Technical College Foundation's Promise Program for adults. Fox Valley Technical College's Promise Program removes financial barriers that prevent low-income students from entering Fox Valley Technical College. Education is a way to break the cycle of generational poverty and makes a lifelong difference for families, and it's incredible to see how the program is having a positive effect on people in our area. Our belief is that humanity thrives when people make the most of all they've been given. Our promise is to help people achieve financial clarity, enabling lives full of meaning and gratitude. That's really what we'd like to pass on to future generations. Financial clarity, so our community is full of people living purposeful, meaningful lives.
The Outstanding Fundraising Volunteer Award is presented to an individual or couple who has demonstrated exceptional leadership skills in coordinating and motivating groups of volunteers for major fundraising projects and is recognized for sharing their time and talents with area nonprofit organizations. Nominated by the American Cancer Society, this year's Outstanding Fundraising Volunteer Award recipient is Joseph SCALA.
Hi, this is Shannon Jill with your American Cancer Society. I nominated Joseph SCALA because he is a tireless volunteer and advocate for the American Cancer Society. Since his teens, when he lost his father to this terrible disease, he has raised many thousands of dollars for the American Cancer Society. Beyond that, his impact goes further than that through his social posts and his daily impact throughout the state with many colleagues and friends. Joseph has made a huge impact on our organization. As a Real Men Wear Pink ambassador, he has had a constant presence throughout the Fox Valley in promoting the American Cancer Society mission and organization. He attends virtually every event that we have and is a nonstop promoter in his professional and personal life. He has sung the national anthem for numerous of our American Cancer Society events and currently is lending his vocal talents to fundraise in our Voice of Hope event. His ongoing and daily efforts to promote our organization and help others is amazing. He has referred many individuals to our organization for assistance and has also mobilized numerous teams for fundraising, highlighted by some team efforts that he's had with the Packers. Thank you for allowing the American Cancer Society to share this award with you, Joseph. Congratulations, Joseph, on outstanding fundraising volunteer.
You know how when you're in second grade and you get an A on something and you want to run home and tell your mother? Well, that was kind of like the first thought I had, even as a 56-year-old guy. And my thoughts always go to both my parents in times like that. I think of times in my life, whether it's awards, recognition, just how excited I would be to tell them, whether I was 10 or 50. And the other big thought is I'm always appreciative of the opportunities and the people, because without the opportunities, I'm not sitting here. Without the opportunities, there'd be no recognition. I think anytime you're involved with something like this, it's all about the people around you, all the volunteers I've worked with, all the great people there I've worked with. Of course, it's hard not to think back to 40 years ago, to my dad's situation, and watching my mother slowly say goodbye, to the guy she loved. That's, without even thinking about it, those are the first thoughts. I mean, you think about where it all started, because that kind of threw me into a lifelong sort of dedication to this cause, as with most people. The other immediate thought is, of course, the people. I mean, from the American Cancer Society. I mean, Shannon, my nominator, and Cindy, and Heather, and all the great people. I mean, without them, as I said, I would not be sitting here. I've got 5 sisters already. I'm not really in the market for more sisters, but just how protective they are of me, how they look out for me. I mean, that just makes you feel incredibly fortunate. And I think seeing people and hearing their stories and having the opportunity to learn and understand what they're going through really makes it all worthwhile. I come from very, very humble beginnings, but I had a lot of love and a lot of people who selflessly gave to others and certainly gave a lot to me. I mean, this is a place I love and care about, and this area has embraced me in a way I could never repay. I probably still have some North Jersey in me. I mean, I moved here in '02, but this community means everything to me, and I want to help others and make it a better place. But I know we have great times ahead. We're facing tough times now, and I've had a lot of conversations with friends, colleagues about that over the last few months. And yes, we miss being together, but we have to take solace in knowing that the walks, the kickoff breakfast, the events, they're coming back. A moment that really stands out, and actually it's a series of moments, is singing the anthem and looking out at the various walks, at the sea of pink, at the crazy wigs, at the crazy tutus, and people sobbing, people engaged, people just riveted on you, and then afterward the opportunity to hold them, hug them, hear their stories. It's an amazing experience I will never, ever forget. And what I'd like to personally pass on to future generations is just wanting the best for everyone. I mean, however they define that. I mean, I care about people, what makes them happy, whether that's on a volunteer level, professional level, in their personal lives, in the community. I mean, in short, I just want the community to thrive in every way. And I just want to leave a commitment to help others, to try to make a difference. And not just on the big stuff. I mean, even on the routine things that are a part of the day, the routine transactions at a convenience store, and stop for a cup of coffee, say good morning, to the folks. Treat them with dignity and respect. One of the highest compliments I think I've ever received from one of my customers was that they said that, Joseph treats the VP the same way as a guy pushing the broom. And that's the way I was raised. And that is really, if there was one thing that I could pass on, that probably would be it. I'm so appreciative of this honor. As you all have probably noticed, I'm a talker. But in these moments, it's really hard to accurately express the gratitude I feel. So I will simply end by saying just thank you. I really am humbled and appreciative to be part of this and to be recognized.
The Outstanding Philanthropist Award is presented to an individual or family who has demonstrated exceptional generosity through their direct financial support, outstanding civic and charitable responsibility, and whose generosity encourages others to take philanthropic leadership roles on a local, national, or international level. Nominated by Appleton West High School and Feeding America Eastern Wisconsin, this year's Outstanding Philanthropist Award recipients are Claudine and Jim HAPPEL.
But Claudine and Jim HAPPEL are two of the most generous people I've ever known. They give of their time, their talents, and their money. And I think that it is their gift of money is often what we think of when we think of philanthropy. To me, their gifts of time and talent are much more important. But I do think it's worth mentioning their gift of money because we now have a sports complex that we've aptly named the Claudine and Jim HAPPEL Sports Complex. Their donation represented the largest single individual or corporate donation, and it spurred, because of their matching gift, spurred nearly $1.5 million in fundraising for that complex. And it's a complex that's going to impact our students and our community for generations to come. They've also given outside of Appleton West. They've given to the Appleton Historical Society, again through another generous matching donation, which I believe was their largest fundraiser last year. And so I highlight these two things because it's about education. It's about providing spaces where kids and community can come together and learn through the athletic lessons that are available, teamwork and other such things. And then it's also about learning from our past through the Historical Society so that we can have a better present and future.
An organization like Feeding America Eastern Wisconsin relies on donors. All of our financial support comes from individual donors like Claudine and Jim. What's really special about the HAPPELs is that they are not just people who write a check that arrives in the mail, but they take their philanthropy very seriously. And they understand that money, the donation, is just the tool, and they want us to be able to do something with that. But they also want to make sure that it is used so that the community is impacted in a very positive way. And that's a very special type of donor, and that's a very special type of philanthropist. And the HAPPELs are one of the best philanthropists in this community for understanding not only the value of their dollar, but how they can make community impact.
Mark McQuaid had sent us an email that said he'd like to give us some news. He didn't say whether it was good news or bad news. So he decided to make it a Zoom meeting and later in the day. So we agonized over several hours, wondering what was going to go on. And we were greatly surprised that it was positive about us.
We felt very honored to be recipients of this National Philanthropist Award.
Some organizations that we'd like to serve in the Appleton area would be Appleton West, since we put 3 decades each into it, Feeding America, Eastern Wisconsin, and the Appleton Historical Society.
We taught at Appleton West for 32 and 35 years respectively, and we had positive experiences. We enjoy being able to give back in a variety of manners.
As 2 longtime Appleton educators, we have amassed considerable resources over the 5 decades, and we felt comfortable at this time with a retirement that we were able to give back to the community.
We are fortunate to have the means, but the time is a much more significant factor. Although I do more of the actual volunteering, Jim is so supportive and understanding that I feel very comfortable donating my time and effort.
These organizations are among others, are very appreciative and never seemed like they were entitled to our money, but were welcome with open arms.
We hope to pass on our love of Appleton. Although neither of us were born or grew up in Appleton, Jim has lived here more than 50 years. I've lived here almost 50 years, and we have a strong love of Appleton, and we have adopted it as our hometown. I guess we would like to be remembered as 2 individuals with strong work ethics, and the 2 longtime educators can make a difference.
Hopefully we will serve as role models to others who will be able to give as we have done. One of the moments that stuck with me was being at the first ever Appleton West football game on its own field.
We wish to thank the Association of Fundraising Professionals for honoring us with the National Philanthropist Day Award. We do intend to continue supporting institutions and organizations.
Over the years, I've had relatives and business associates give us tips as going along the way. And I'd like to share with you the one that fits into our goals. Do your giving while you're living so you know where it's going.
The Outstanding Lifetime Philanthropy Award is presented to an individual or family, either in honor or memory, who is recognized widely as a community philanthropist and has a long and proven record of making significant impact in the community through financial support, volunteerism, or leadership for a variety of organizations. Nominated by the Community Foundation for the Fox Valley Region, McPherson Eye Research Institute, PBS Wisconsin, and the Trout Museum of Art, this year's Outstanding Lifetime Philanthropy Award recipients are Dr. MONROE and Sandra TROUT.
The Community Foundation helps to facilitate MONROE and Sandra's charitable giving, so we see firsthand their generosity, and it goes from Appleton, Wisconsin to Knoxville, Tennessee, and across the United States, and we get to see that and feel that.
Hi, I'm John Miskowski, Director of PBS Wisconsin. Congratulations to Dr. MONROE and Sandy TROUT for this well-deserved honor and award. We appreciate your continuing commitment and your philanthropy. We're pleased to join our partners in this nomination because MONROE and Sandy are builders. They make investments that address problems and really draw other community members to support that work. In our case, that has been the growth in our education work, which is now 4 times bigger than it was before because of their significant support and the donors that they've encouraged to join us. Our partners at the McPherson Eye Research on the UW-Madison campus have a similar story of their investment, inspiring others to contribute as well. So thank you and congratulations.
Monroe and Sandy epitomize outstanding lifetime philanthropy. We first met them when they were living in Knoxville, Tennessee, where they were true pillars of the community, and they supported everything from medicine to music. And we became familiar with their formidable early career of giving and their goal over their lifetime of arranging for upwards of $1 billion of charitable support. And we've watched proudly, but we haven't been surprised at all, that they've increased their charitable support after returning to Wisconsin. And for them, it's not just about the dollars, it's about their ideas, it's about the contacts, the encouragement, the advice, and the true concern that they have for their organization's goals that they support. They are truly two really extraordinary individuals. Monroe and Sandy have transformed the McPherson Eye Research Institute. From the very beginning, we knew we had a large group of amazing vision researchers here on campus and around Wisconsin. But the Trouts have given that group of individuals, those researchers, a whole new level of funding with the particular and necessary goal of improving therapies and finding a cure for age-related macular degeneration.
The Trouts have been very philanthropic their whole life, and they continue to be very supportive of the museum, not just with their endowment, but also in giving money towards different exhibitions we're doing. This year, they're giving us $20,000 to do an exhibition on diversity now. And they usually do that every single year on top of all the money that they've given in terms of endowment. But they help tons of organizations all over the Fox cities, all over the state of Wisconsin, and literally all over the country they have given. And, so it is really rare to find people that really have given away a huge portion of the money that they've earned over their lifetime. And I think it's just an incredible testament to, just philanthropy in the United States, and people from their generation who really thought hard about what they were going to do with the money that they've given. And I think they really are an example of that in our country today.
Anytime you get an award, especially one that surprises you, the people called us to be open for a phone call, or a Zoom call, I should say. And so they all got on and said congratulations, and we didn't even know what they were talking about. But we quickly found out.
It was a complete surprise that we received it, because we feel that when we give something, we didn't expect anything like this award in return for the little bit we were able to do. We're interested in helping children, and we're also interested, obviously, in art, and we're also interested in the Eye Institute. I think they're all very special to us, and we like, of course, the Kids Channel because it helps so many children, and particularly at this time during the COVID crisis when they've had special programming on it.
The All Kids Channel, in honor of our dead son, is probably at the top of our list. And it was especially fantastic for us when our two youngest grandchildren, they were only at the time 4 and 6 years old when their father died. They first saw the All Kids Channel and saw their father being honored for starting it. It was really a great prize for us and for them. One of the big things that I hoped to accomplish was to commemorate my son.
We just feel we want to share the good things that we've been fortunate to have and to help others.
Hello, everybody. I just want to give a great round of applause if you guys can join me at home for our award recipients. So, yay, congratulations, everyone. I also want to thank our award sponsor, the Catholic Foundation for the Diocese of Green Bay. Welcome, everybody. My name is Liz Wallenberg. I'm the Director of Development at Feeding America Eastern Wisconsin and one of your National Philanthropy Day co-chairs. It has definitely been an honor to chair this wonderful event to celebrate with all of you as philanthropic leaders in our communities. Philanthropy is, as our National Philanthropy Day theme states, about changing the world with a giving heart. Philanthropy comes in all shapes and sizes. It is all about giving of ourselves for the good of others. More than 125 communities and 50,000 people around the world will participate in National Philanthropy Day events and celebrations today. And we're honored to be here in this community celebrating you. So let's learn a little bit about our audience today. I would love to know how many of you have attended NPD in the past. So we're gonna have a little poll to figure out how many of you are first timers or how many of you love the good old NPD. Awesome, results are coming in quickly. So it looks like, cool. So almost 50 of you have been to NPD before. A lot of first timers. I hope you guys are having a great time, even though this is our first NPD virtual event. We typically, gather together in a big room and have a big celebration. And so I hope you're enjoying this new virtual version. All right, so moving on. First, I would really like to extend our gratitude to our judges of this year's award nominees. They are valued members of our philanthropic community, and we're fortunate to have their thoughtfulness and time. Kate Eastman, Tammy Geenan, Amber Pollock, and Sue Watt. Thank you again for all your thoughtfulness in selecting these incredible award recipients. And last but not least, I need to give a very special thank you to the 2020 NPD Planning Committee. I had the privilege of working with this wonderful group this past year to plan this amazing day. We've had lots of hurdles to jump together, and I hope that you're all very proud of what we were able to do together. So thank you all for your help. And just want to list everyone who is on our committee. Pilar Martinez was my co-chair, Cindy Burton, Becky Boulanger, Trina Dockstader, Crystal Harrison, Julie Keller, Morgan Kirkenwitz, Maggie Mamal, Amanda Moore, Kathy Reckner, Holly Rudder, Lisa Strandberg, and Jenny Ziegler. Thank you guys, and thank you for dealing with me. We will be taking a short break leading into our panelist discussion. So please join us at 10 a.m. to hear from our distinguished panelists about their best practices, successes, and even failures working through this year. Before we head out on our break, we're gonna have a fun little poll for you to do. So please add your answer to our poll, stretch your legs, go refill your coffee, and come back rejuvenated and ready to engage with our panelists. So our next poll is, how many virtual meetings have you attended in the past 9 months? 7, 70, or 700? Enjoy your break, everybody.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back. Thank you for joining us for this year's celebration of National Philanthropy Day. Just taking a quick look at the polls, it looks like we have been Zooming a lot in the last 8 or 9 months. So thank you for participating in that. I'm Pilar Martinez from the Fox Cities Performing Arts Center and one of your National Philanthropy Day co-chairs. I hope you enjoyed our award celebration and are excited to engage with local industry leaders as they discuss how they are navigating this challenging year. Before we jump into our panel, I'd like to introduce one of our panel sponsors. Please welcome Courtney Weiland on behalf of ThedaCare Family of Foundations.
Good morning, I'm Courtney Weiland. I have the privilege of serving as the Vice President of Philanthropy for the ThedaCare Family of Foundations. On behalf of my colleagues, we are once again thrilled to help be a part of supporting National Philanthropy Day. This is a day and an event that has a really rich history, not only in our community, but nationally. And this year it seems more poignant than ever that we pause to celebrate philanthropy and what it means to our community. I've often thought over the years about this day having 2 purposes. One is really to celebrate some key individuals whose generosity has left a distinct mark on our community. But I've also looked at it as a day to really celebrate the profession of fundraising and the people that do that every day. I'm very fortunate to work with a team that comes into the office every day, now virtually every day, and works passionately and tirelessly to connect with our community, to find donors opportunities and spaces and places where it is most meaningful for them to give gifts and have impact and meet needs. And I know that everyone here today is working in that same space, and we're having to reinvent ourselves and figure out how do we build relationships with face masks and social distancing and Zoom and more Zoom and a little bit more Zoom and no events. None of the things that we are used to doing as fundraising professionals. So today I would like to celebrate all of you, have you pause, just pat yourselves on the back and recognize that you're having an impact in this community. And to all of the donors that will be recognized today and all of the donors in our community as a whole, we thank you. You're the reason we can bring our mission to life on a daily basis, and we love working with you, so thank you.
And thank you, Courtney. We appreciate your support so much. Now, just a reminder for all of you participating in the chat box, we love hearing your comments, but please make sure in the drop-down menu that you are commenting to all panelists and attendees, just so everyone in the room can hear your great comments. Also a reminder, if you have any questions during the panel discussion, please submit them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and they will be addressed during the large group discussion. I have the pleasure today of introducing our moderator, Denise Thomas. Denise is the president and owner of the Effective Communication Coach, a consultancy focused on transforming emerging and existing professionals into extraordinary leaders by mastering the art of effective communication. Denise, welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you so much. It is my absolute pleasure to be here today. Again, I'm Denise Thomas, and I have the honor of introducing and moderating the panelists today. Now, the committee has asked us to share something fun about our work from home setup so you can get to know us a little bit better. I'm going to kick it off, and as I'm introducing our distinguished panelists, they will also share with each of you what they use in order to have a little fun while working from home. I'm a huge Justin Timberlake fan. So here is my JT bobblehead that I keep next to me just to inspire me. And I'm also a huge fan of our royal family, and The Crown just premiered on Netflix season 4. So here is my crown. So these 2 things I keep very close to me as I'm working from home. So we're going to start introducing our panelists again, finding out what is their quirky working from home setup. And also for our audience members, please share with us what is your working from home setups, and make sure you share that in our chat box. So first, let's give a warm welcome to Jody Larson, Vice President of Community Engagement of Oshkosh Corporation.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jody. Do you have yes, do you have a fun thing to share with us from working from home?
Yeah, I do. During our stay at home, when we were told that we were going to be working from home, one of the first things I grabbed off my desk was a little calendar that some of my friends have gotten for me. And some of you who know me know that a run in the morning or a run at night with friends is really what kind of distresses me. And we know we all needed that during these challenging times. So I had to grab this calendar off because every day it was kind of that motivational comment that I needed to start the day. So every day is a fresh start was just one I pulled out from back in this was just recent, on November 1, that every day was just a little different comment. So that was the thing that kept me going, that I kept on my desk every day to think about, how life was so abnormal, but yet bringing us back to some normality.
Oh my goodness, I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that, Jody. That is so
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Next, we have Kathleen Muchler, who is Vice President of Community Relations of Community First Credit Union. Good morning, Kathy.
Hey, everyone. So I also have two things, Denise. I have one, I think everyone probably has one of these on their laps right now. My fuzzy blanket, which goes with me everywhere. And then anybody who's ever been in one of my offices since I worked at the Community Foundation 1,000 years ago knows that I love toys. So I have the first toy one of my friends gave me, and it's, let's see if he can dance. Oh, hang on. And I actually got this from your president, Patty Havek. So.
Oh my goodness, that is definitely something that Patty would gift. I love it.
Yes, and now I have about 20 of them. So, but I like to keep this guy nearby.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Kathy. I feel like we're going to be like after today's session, going to Amazon and purchasing all the fun things that each of you are sharing. All right, next we have Jeff Vandelees, who is President and CEO of Family Services of Northeast Wisconsin. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning, and good morning, everybody. It's great to be here virtually with everyone today. I really wish we could be doing this in person, however.
So Jeff, do you have anything to share in terms of what you use or reference from working from home?
Yeah, I'm going to cheat a little bit on this one, Denise, since I have not been working from home since the pandemic began. Actually, I've been working out of my office here in Green Bay, properly socially distancing from anybody else in the building. But we have been working, at least our leadership team has been working on site since the pandemic began. So I don't have anything cute or cool to share. However, what I thought I would do this morning is that during these times, there has been really a lack of good news and positive things to talk about. So I wanted to share just a little bit of good news with the group today, because this is really important to me. About a month ago, actually October 20th of this year, we welcomed my first grandchild into the family. So my daughter and her husband, who live in Chicago, brought Adeline Florence Conradi into the world a month ago. And I don't know if anybody's going to be able to pick this up, but I've got a picture of Adeline on my phone. Actually, I've got 450 pictures of her on my phone, so I don't think I'll share all of those today. But I'm just going to hold up a little picture of Adeline and see if anybody can see her. Really proud of her. This is my proud grandpa moment, and it's a pleasure to be able to share that with everybody here this morning. Thanks.
Oh my goodness, Grandpa Jeff.
Yep.
That is one perfect grandbaby you have.
She's pretty cute, actually.
Yes, she is. And if you look at the chat box, I think everyone is just unanimously just enjoy right now looking at that beautiful picture. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You bet. You know what they always say, Denise, if you want to steal the show, either pets or kids. So I chose kids.
You did very well. Thank you so much again for
bet.
sharing, Jeff, and thank you for being here.
You bet.
Next, we have Greg Vandenberg, who is Director of Giving and Community Engagement of U.S. Venture. Good morning, Greg.
Good morning, Denise. I'm sorry, I do not have a pet or any baby pictures. But you can see behind me, there's a baseball cap, and it's from the Just Keep Living Foundation. And 2 years ago at the U.S. Venture Open, We had the great privilege of working with that foundation, Matthew McConaughey. And this picture of my team with Matthew at the event is something that goes right next to the hat every day. And it reminds me a couple things. One, I am incredibly blessed to have the team that I have. They're just incredible people. And we get some really incredible experiences while trying to do some good. And I always chuckle to myself because my favorite memory from that event was I was in the green room prepping Matthew on what the questions were gonna be and things like that. And suddenly I turned around and he and I were the only people in the room. They had ushered everyone out and he had his shirt off. And I thought three things. One, I wonder what I could auction this off for to raise money, this experience to stand here. Number two, there's about 1,000 women out in that tent or, fans of his who'd rather be in here than me. And the third thing I thought of was, holy crap, am I fat? And so that's one of my favorite memories from that. And when I see that picture, it reminds me of what a great team I have and just privileged to be able to do what we do.
Awesome. That definitely was a great story. Thank you so much for sharing that, Greg. And definitely check out the chat box, Greg. You're receiving a lot of love from the audience. They appreciate that story. I think someone had even asked if you could just screenshot the picture with you and your team and Matthew McConaughey. Zoom in on Matthew and just display that whenever you're speaking today.
Is that better?
That is very nice, very nice. And congratulations again. All right. We have, last but most certainly not least, another one of our distinguished panelists today. Good morning to Maria Van Leneen, who is president of the Fox Cities Performing Arts Center. Good morning, Maria.
Good morning, everybody. And I actually am going to follow the trend of having two items. One item is every morning I have to have my tea in a very special mug that is representative of one of my good friends' businesses and reminds me that even though we can't physically be together at the Performing Arts Center sharing amazing experiences, that blessing to still create every day and make those magical connections is something to focus on. Of course, one of the unique things about working from home is that every day I get to put on my nice, warm, fuzzy slippers as I'm walking around my little home office to stay warm and very productive, but being warm is important to me. So I love that instead of putting on high heels every day, I get my fuzzy slippers.
Oh my goodness, this is just so incredible. I love what our distinguished panelists have shared with us today. Maria, thank you so much. I'm excited. This is going to be a great conversation. I can already tell just based on what our panelists have shared with us already. So to our amazing audience members who have made the time to be here, we're going to have a conversation. We're going to have a conversation with our panelists to learn more about this great thing called philanthropy. We're also going to talk about leadership, organizational management, employee structure, and what are the possibilities within the future of 2021 and beyond. So we're going to have a conversation and then we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to be taking questions from each of you. So as we have this conversation, whatever questions that are triggered or whatever you want to ask our panelists, please think of that, send that through the chat box and we'll get started. So first, today is National Philanthropy Day. So let's kick it off with talking about some things specific to philanthropy. And I want to ask each of you, so anyone chime in, and in particular, Greg, Kathy, and Jody. In 2020, fundraising initiatives obviously took a huge pivot, took a huge change. So based on your perspectives and experiences in 2020, what should fundraising look and feel like now and beyond? We'll start with you, Greg.
Well, thank you, Denise. I would say, we had quite a pivot with our U.S. Venture Open, which has typically always been, a golf outing at 6 courses with 900 golfers and then 1,200 people in a tent at Benabel's Supper Club at night. And many of you have been there. And the thought of us trying to raise the same amount of money or actually more money than what we raised last year seemed quite honestly, it scared the heck out of us. And yet we have a strong leadership team at US Venture that really is passionate and believes in this work. And so they challenged me and Dawn Rushala, who really heads up the event, and the rest of our team, Pam Swick and Megan and others. And they really challenged us to say, we don't care what the event's going to look like, but you need to raise just about $200,000 more than you did last year. So, what that proved to us, though, is relationships are really the key behind fundraising. And I had a mentor of mine very early on in my career that taught me that events can be fun, events can bring new contacts into the fold, but it's about major gift relationships. And I think the relationships that so many others before me, including the Schmidt family and Kathy Muschler and our incredible team, there's been so many people who've built really deep relationships across the region. And so people were, worried about it. We were worried about it, but we were able to pivot into an all-day media-a-thon with WBAY and Woodward Radio Communications Group. But more than anything else, I think it showed one in crisis. Those strong relationships are going to be the things that carry you through. And we were amazed at how many legacy donors continued to give at the level they have given or given more. But we're also able to tap into some new donors by really being able to tell the story of where the grant dollars go. So, and I'd be remiss to not thank so many of our great partners like Jody at Oshkosh and Heidi at J. Keller and Theta Care, Person and Kathy and their team. It's Thrivent, Jenny, Mike. It really is an entire, it's a family and a community that allows this to happen. So, but it was frightening and it was tough.
Absolutely. Greg, I love the point that you made, and you're receiving some love in the chat box as well. Relationships are so key, and your contributions in terms of why they matter is so important and so valuable. And which is a great segue to Jody, because as a corporate funder, you always have to balance the needs of the corporation while continuing to support the community. So as Greg had mentioned, relationships. How are you balancing that now, especially with the pandemic going on and more galas becoming virtual than on-site?
Yeah, I think that, Greg hit a really great point. Relationships are really important during this time. We have a saying here that we're better together, right? And I think that the community of funders, nonprofits all coming together and talking during this time really helped us be successful in getting through it or processing through it as we are still. I think that, we look at Oshkosh Corporation and we also have a business that we're managing, right? And when some of those times are tough, we have some businesses that are out east that, sales have gone down because of the pandemic and customers' ability to want or just, not knowing what the future will look like. So employees who are saying, okay, how do you continue to go out there and do the things that you're doing from philanthropy when our business is suffering and some of our own team members? But again, being better together and understanding where everybody can play their part can expand those dollars further and make sure that, it's spread throughout. So for us, it was really connecting with others within our business, connecting with our employees, asking them to be bold in a tough time to help our partners, to help our community, and to help one another. So those relationships paid off that we've spent time over the past building and now being able to come together and again, operate together.
Jody, again, you bring up another great point that I want to leverage as I ask Maria this question. Staying connected, really coming up with some out-of-the-box creative ways to stay connected with your community, as well as your stakeholders and shareholders. Maria, at the Performing Arts Center in Fox Valley, this is probably one of the most unprecedented times that you and your organization have ever experienced. And I think it's so incredible that an industry, including the performing arts, that has a huge dependency on live audiences, has still been able to be successful during this time. So I wanted to ask if you could share with us, how have you been keeping your stakeholders and your donors engaged while the center is temporarily closed? And what does that look like in addition to what have you learned in terms of best practices?
Well, it is, of course, everybody is going through trying to navigate all of the very unique differences. We were so accustomed to physically seeing our audiences and the different segments of our community on a regular basis. And the big thing, of course, is making sure that we're communicating as much as possible through all of our channels. So in the beginning of this crisis, that was really important to make sure that we were pushing out those updates and keeping people informed, letting them know what their options are. As we get deeper into the pandemic, we've been able to pivot to make sure that we're recreating to the best of our ability those interactive opportunities. So we have done things like virtual partners lounge, where we invite a very small number of donors on different nights so that we actually can have a virtual conversation, but it isn't just being talked at, but we can really engage in a back and forth conversation, catch up what's going on with everybody, what are their kids doing, how's college going, all of those great things. We've also done that with our educators. We have a virtual teachers lounge where, again, it's meant to be just a very casual opportunity for our educators to come together. We can share some best practices, what we're learning, and as well as ask each other questions. And it's been a wonderful way for our educators. We've seen our educators say, you know, I'm struggling with this one piece of technology. Have any of you found a solution or a workaround? So it's been a really nice opportunity to pull that community together to, yes, certainly the Performing Arts Center can help pull them together, but a lot of the times we just step back and let the educators have the conversations they need to have. And so it's creating those sorts of opportunities that are really important, as well as listening and getting that feedback from people. So providing people an opportunity to ask their questions and to give us their feedback, their thoughts, and share what they're excited about when we can all come back in person. So it's important to also continue to spark that inspiration in those conversations. And I've got to say, the thing that is really a passion for so many of us of the Performing Arts Center, of course, is presenting great art. It's about how you connect that art to the community and the issues we're facing as a community. So we can still do that virtually. One of my favorite projects so far that we've been able to do during the pandemic is we were able to tap into a national early filming of the John Lewis film, Good Trouble. And then we had a national panel discussion about the work of John Lewis and his impact across the country, and have a local panel because John Lewis spent time here in the Fox Cities as well. So we could talk about locally what his impact was in the community and what we can be doing here today locally to make a difference. And those are the opportunities that we always thrive on, bringing our mission to life. And it's really exciting to see that we can still do that virtually.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Maria. I love already that we've captured 3 themes, and that is relationships, connecting, and listening, having those conversations to understand exactly how we can stay engaged with each other. I love that. Now, Jeff, you have already blessed us, Grandpa Jeff, with the picture of your beautiful granddaughter. Have to also ask you, in terms of your role as president and CEO of the Family Services of Northeastern Wisconsin, when you think about family services and how that obviously has been more prevalent than ever before and more necessary, how have you shifted to a new focus in terms of giving and raising money as it relates to your organization in light of the pandemic?
Yeah, you know, I think our move is probably similar to, you know, a lot of other organizations. We have 2 major fundraisers every year, our Green and Gold Gala, which is done in conjunction with the Green Bay Packers, and then a fundraiser to raise money for our Child Advocacy Center. We made the shift to go virtual in both of those events this year. And again, I think it goes back to what Greg and others have been saying as we've been talking here this morning, is that without the relationships we have with our longstanding sponsors and donors, those events wouldn't have happened, probably wouldn't have been anywhere near as successful as they have been. So really maintaining and nurturing those connections with the people that not only like to give you money, but really buy into your mission and purpose is really what we've cultivated over the last year. And I think it's worked very well for us. You know, I was not real hopeful turning a gala that has 900 people in attendance into a virtual event, but it really went very well for us.
That's awesome. So glad to hear that it went great. And you bring up another very important and relevant word. And so I want to underscore that and ask a question to each of you. And I'm going to start with Greg. Jeff brought up mission. And I know that each of your organizations have not only a mission statement, but are very mission oriented, especially as it relates to philanthropic work or philanthropy efforts. So Greg, has your mission shifted? And if so, how have you had to shift your mission?
Great question, Denise. So I would say yes. We have typically, from the funds raised from the U.S. Venture Open, it's typically been a once a year cycle, sometimes twice a year cycle, depending which community foundation you're working with. And we really have been focused on innovative projects that really get to the root causes of poverty. And we still know that that work is really important. We're continuing to fund that. But with our great partners, we and our community foundations, we were able to release an additional $5 million into the community in a much more simplified application process, a rolling application process. And also we're pivoting from a strategy standpoint to be focused more on things like systems level thinking and regionality. And the big, I would say the big blind spot for us that we're learning about now is really equity. And that's been a journey and a passion of mine just over the past couple of years. But I'm excited that we're able to, this pandemic has really forced our hand to change and be nimble and do all that quickly. And I know it hasn't been easy. There's a number of you on the call who work on those grant teams, and you know it's not been easy, but we had to adjust. Doing grants just once or twice a year was not going to cut it when you're hearing that nonprofits or their revenues are down sometimes 30 to 50% because they aren't able to have the in-person events that they've typically had. And we've also opened it up a bit more because we realize that nonprofits are in survival mode right now. So those are two of the things we try to make a much more simplified and nimble process than that was in place before.
Too simple, but yet very necessary and obviously impactful. Greg, I'm just going to say this. I know you had Matthew McConaughey, but if you choose to invite Justin Timberlake to your next virtual open, I am quite sure that someone would be very, very liberal in their donation. Well, that would be, but I'm just putting that out there for you, Greg.
And the mastermind behind the whole event, Dawn Rashala, who's on the call, I think she would be great with Justin Timberlake as the guest.
I will be reaching out to Dawn. So thank y'all again, US Venture, which, you know, again, y'all are a valued client of mine. So always appreciate the great work that you do for our nonprofit organizations. Any other perspectives in terms of how your respective organizations or companies have shifted your mission during the pandemic?
Yeah, Denise, I think, you know, while our mission of poverty reduction didn't really shift from our giving philanthropy or philosophy, we really just saw that we had to be more loose with what we did and make sure that the agencies really could take that money, you know, unrestricted, so that they didn't have to follow the protocol that we typically have set up. So be much more nimble in the things that we asked and more, you know, quickly come to the table more quickly and respond more quickly to the needs. So, you know, even things like volunteering and the work that our employees did to get out and volunteer, and now they saying, well, you know, I don't want to go out and volunteer, right? So what in-house things could we do? You know, we have 3D printers here. So we actually started an innovation site for our team members to submit ideas. And let me tell you, the creative things that they came up with how we could help in a very different way were phenomenal, right? From PPE that we could make on the 3Ds to different ways to do food drives, to do things that really matched the need at the time. So it was really just out of the box thinking and working together and letting our employees, our team members come together and just tell us how we should get out there and do things differently.
You know, Jody, what I'm noticing from both your response as well as Greg's is this common denominator of relationships and staying connected and really meeting people where they are. And so I want to now ask Kathy, because as an in-person customer service oriented business, we know that for your company, for your organization, relationships are at the core. So if you could share with us, just based on the themes that we've identified, Kathy, what have been the changes that you've made to maintain your relationships with your members? And what do you think has been gained as well as lost in terms of customer relationships when we've now moved to a virtual environment?
Wow, that's a big question. I think, we're a financial services business, and we were considered an essential business early on. So in many ways, it was business as usual. Our lobbies were open by appointment only. And that really required a mental shift for some of our members who also, we talk about relationships, who really value that in-person relationship. But being open by appointment didn't mean we stopped seeing people. It just meant we kind of changed the way that we worked. We offered different products through our drive-ups than we normally would. We added staff to our contact center, so more people were available by phone, and they didn't have long waits. And then from a member perspective, and we saw this as important as the philanthropy we did in the community, the services that we offered during that time looked very different very quickly. We offered a very fast emergency, short-term emergency loan. We offered immediate loan deferrals if people were struggling to pay their bills. We looked at credit bureau reports differently, and we increased lines of credit for people automatically, or their credit card limits automatically, without them having to come to us and ask for that help. And then we were also one of the few credit unions in the area that participated in the PPP. And there were many, dozens and dozens of our nonprofit partners who were able to get that funding support during that really, really critical time to help with operations. And that was just on the business side. But we, again, to us, that's as much about how we live our mission. Our motto is "We'll find a way." And so we did it from the business side as well as the philanthropy side. From a philanthropy perspective, we're known as being the event people. We love to sponsor events. We see that they're a win-win. So it was a pivot for us as well to get our heads around suddenly not having that opportunity to be networking and be out in the community and meeting with people. But again, I go back to what everybody else has said. It was about the relationships. We have some really strong relationships with some really fantastic organizations. So kind of trusting a little bit in those. And as Jeff said, you're shifting to a virtual event format. You don't know if that's going to be successful, but just trusting a little bit there. And then the other side of it is also trusting in those relationships with our arts partners. We are strong givers in the arts. And when there's nothing going on there in the short term, it's continuing to make sure that we're supporting the PAC, the Fox Valley Symphony Orchestra, the Boy Choir. I cannot stress that enough, that it was really just saying, we're not doing any programming, but we still need your support, so that when we come out of this pandemic on the other side, our community is going to look the same. And that is of utter importance to our organization.
Wow. So for that big question, Kathy, you provided us so many big golden nuggets. And kudos and huge thank you to Community First Credit Union, because obviously the work that you're doing, I'm about to call my bank and say, hey, how come y'all haven't raised my credit card? Community First Credit Union is doing it. Maybe I need to just change banks. That's awesome. That is absolutely incredible. So thank you for sharing that, Kathy. And I want to keep in terms of the things, because I know a lot of the audience members are really appreciating your transparency and your candid feedback in terms of how you've responded to this unprecedented time. So I also want to ask Jeff, as again, an organization that has direct impact and interaction with families throughout the state of Wisconsin, particularly the Northeast area, what have been some of the challenges that your organization or your team has faced in order to continue to provide services to your clients?
Yeah, a really good question, and the list is about a mile long, so I'll try to condense it the best I can. But before I talk about those challenges, I just want to revisit something we were talking about a couple of minutes ago, and that is the flexibility that the foundations and corporate sponsors and donors have allowed service providers in the community. You know, I think Greg touched on some of the changes they had to make organizationally to make things happen more quickly and more directly. For us that are needing that kind of support to deliver services to the community, to kids, families, and others, that has just been incredibly helpful as we've tried to make our way through the pandemic. So I guess I just wanted to give a shout out to all of the foundations and other funders that are present today for the event, knowing how much that is appreciated on the direct service level and how much it really is contributing to the impact that we're making, you know, day to day with people. So I wanted to mention that. You know, in terms of challenges for a system that is really a face-to-face, in-person service model has been really challenging for us. So as an organization, we had to go from 100% in-person, face-to-face service delivery to probably a 75% virtual model of service delivery. Now that's really difficult for human service agencies because, you know, we work on relationships, we work on seeing people face to face in the office and in their homes and such. And to start doing all of that virtually is a real challenge for our providers to be able to do that. That says nothing about the fact that we were woefully unprepared from a technology standpoint to pull that off. So the ability to get laptops and sufficient Wi-Fi capabilities and all of that techno stuff that we needed to do to make that pivot was really probably our greatest challenge in this whole process. And again, the foundations have been extremely helpful in terms of helping us purchase laptops and other technology to make this happen. So I think that's probably the biggest overall challenge that we've had. I think the second challenge is probably a bit more subtle, but probably more important than the practical side. And that is, how do we balance the needs of our clients, the kids, the families, the adults that we serve, against the safety of our staff? So that has really been kind of the underlying direction that we have taken in every decision that we've made over the last several months in terms of service delivery, how we are going to open our doors, when we're going to open our doors, if we're going to open our doors. We got to get our services out there. We got to meet some really pressing needs in the community, but we have to keep our staff safe as well. So those two things have really been occupying probably the lion's share of our time and our energy. And I think we've done a pretty good job with it. You know, all things considered, you would have never told me in a million years that we could pivot to a virtual service delivery system in a 2-week period of time, and we did that.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations to you and your team, Jeff.
Thank you.
Please continue to do the great work, because your organization's mission, as well as others, is very essential to the continuing betterment of our state, as well as the Northeast region of Wisconsin. I want to shift now, because one of the words that you had also brought up that I think is something that we can now focus on is each of you have highlighted and talked about your essential team members and the contributions that they have made as it relates to not only sustainment, but continuing to even grow during this pandemic. Maria, I want to ask you, because I know that, again, the performing arts traditionally has been an incredible experience of being on site, watching incredible performances, and your team has every bit of that result. They contribute day to day. So as we talk about employees and our team members, how has your organization kept your employees engaged and connected? Because I know a lot of us want to know, how can we keep our team members, our valued employees, engaged and connected?
Right. Boy, and it is hard. It's hard for all of us as we're struggling with, for many of us, our workforce is now working from home. With the Performing Arts Centers, so many of our staff's responsibilities are tied directly to events in the building. And without that, there isn't a lot of work to be done for some of those team members. So that's very difficult as well. You know, and we happen to have in the performing arts, you tend to draw a lot of extroverts to your team, right? A lot of people who need people to fill their tanks. And so that's been a real struggle, to be sure. We have, again, like with our public, we have worked to provide opportunities to connect. We do our virtual town halls at least monthly, and we try to mix some business and fun. So of course, everybody has questions about where are we at? What does our future look like? So you need to be honest and open and provide the answers to those questions. But we've been very intentional as well to make sure that we give ourselves time to play. So at the end of those town halls, we usually try to split the time at least in half. So at least half of the time we just social. What's everybody up to? We bring pets and families, and we've had kids showing their artwork, kind of like Greg with his picture. They'll hold their latest work of art up to the camera so that we can have those engagement opportunities. We have, I'm going to call out Pilar because she's a part of the committee who made this day happen. She's been doing an incredible job with a lot of our event staff. Again, just having fun. Our volunteers are our lifeblood, and we have a tradition with our volunteers. The Monday after Broadway runs, we always do a potluck game night. Since we don't have those Broadway runs, of course, we're not in the building, but we're doing virtual game nights with our volunteers to keep them engaged. And that's been a really important opportunity. We just did our own internal version of Chopped, a cooking competition between one of our staff members and his sister virtually that everybody could tune into. So providing those opportunities to make sure, number one, people are concerned about their jobs. How secure are their jobs? When can they come back? How are we still delivering our mission to the community? Because this is a group who is incredibly passionate about serving our community. So making sure that they know that that is still alive and well, although it looks very different right now. And then giving them a chance to play and have those outlets and have those connections. So we work hard at all of our levels to make sure that we're trying to make a good mix of those opportunities.
Wow, this is so awesome. I'm just love. Audience members, is this not awesome? Are we receiving so many golden nuggets today during this conversation? And speaking of our great audience, just want to give a shout out because we've been receiving some great feedback. Pilar had said, thank you so much, Kathy and CFCU, for your continued support of the arts. We will be back, and we're fortunate to have you and so many others by our side. Therese says, thank you for sharing your stories and challenges and for your leadership during this time. Lisa Strandberg, our case managers have really wrestled with having to wear masks because of the way they interfere with the ability to connect. Connection builds trust that leads to good human service outcomes. So just want to share with y'all some of the feedback that you have been receiving based on this great conversation so far. So let's continue. I know we've got about 15 minutes left. This time is flying by, and we still have some conversation that we want to have. So now I want to also just go back to our team members. And I know a lot of our organizations really, again, have a huge focus on their employees, which for every organization has essential workers. All of the employees are essential. So I want to ask you, Jody, what does hiring look right now as it relates to employee count, future hiring? What does that look like for your organization? Or in general, from your perspective, what do you think hiring looks like now?
Yeah, from our organization, hiring is probably there's probably non-existent, right? Especially on the office side, as we kind of look and navigate through this time and where our business is going. You know, we heard it before, and you just used the word essential business. We are, and we're determined essential business with the product that we make, that we service the men and women who serve in our armed forces, you know, and our fire apparatus that, you know, help protect us all each and every day. So with that, we had to continue with that. So we see some of that on the production side. We're really hopeful that as we come out of this, and the sooner we come out of this, that we'll see that we'll have those industries all pick right back up where they left off.
But right now it's pretty slow. And I would say that a lot of our area businesses are in that same mode. But I think one of the key things is that what we do and what all of you do on this call here to really, help those people in need, because some have been in industries where they've lost their jobs. That's what's keeping this community strong, what's keeping it going, and will bring us all back even stronger than we were before.
Thank you so much, Jody. And I love how you had mentioned how we can still continue to reach out and help others throughout this time. Thank you so much for sharing that. Greg, also want to piggyback off of what Jody had mentioned. Obviously, there has been a significant impact in terms of hiring as it relates to retention. So the existing amazing employees that you have now at US Venture, what are some of the things that you are doing as it relates to both hiring and retaining your employee workforce?
Great question. So I think, I think just migrating again from in-person contacts and trade hiring events and things like that, our HR teams really had to be creative. This all also is happening during, from a business perspective, our busiest time, as one of the lanes of our business is wholesale tire delivery. The first time the snow hits, everything, everybody starts buying tires. And so we have a huge need right now. And our people resource team has done just an amazing job of being able to get people into some of those entry level roles. And I would say from a retention standpoint, and I'll speak to it for my team, I worry far more about my team burning out, because now you don't have work-life balance, right? I can come out here in my living room at 8 at night and there's that computer staring at me, saying, did you do this? Did you do this? And just the passion and energy that that Dawn and Pam and Megan and Lynn all have, I worry more about creating space and time for them to be able to step away. And so, three ways I think I've tried to be consistent is, one, we have to give each other a lot of grace right now, because I don't know if you're familiar with the Bill Murray Groundhog Day movie, but every Monday morning it feels like Groundhog Day.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm very familiar with it.
Probably true. But he basically wakes up every morning and it's the same morning. It's the same day every morning. And so, giving yourself grace that this is really difficult psychologically, emotionally, and giving that grace to others and to your team. And the third thing is really try to think creatively of the little things. This was just a fleeting thought of mine, but I told my team, we're not having a team meeting a couple weeks back. I want you to take that hour. It's a beautiful day outside. I want you to promise me you're not going to bring your phone. You're just going to go for a walk, or you're going to do something that fills you up. And something really simple like that. The feedback was really great. That it was nice to sort of be given permission to step away for a time. But I think that retention and that work-life balance is really, really difficult right now.
Absolutely. And it's definitely appreciated when employers recognize that as well. So thank you for sharing that, Greg. Now, I want to take a few moments to get a little bit more intimate with each of you. Can we have a vulnerable and transparent moment? They're like, Denise, you're putting us on the spot. I promise it'll be harmless. And the reason why I preface the question with saying, let's get a little bit transparent and intimate, is Jenny Eichelberg from Thrive It. She says, I love hearing the wide variety of ways that these organizations and leaders are pushing through crisis. And so I'd like for each of you, as it relates to your leadership style and how you've pivoted and how you've assimilated, or even how you've had to break down some walls, what kind of leadership opportunities has this pandemic created? How have you shown up? What are some ways that you had to pivot? Because I think a lot of times people really want to understand, what is our leadership thinking? How are they managing? And what have been some of the things that they've had to demonstrate during this time of crisis versus just managing a response? So Jeff, I'm going to start with you. If you could just share with us, what kind of leadership opportunities have you had to provide, unpredicted, unprecedented, in light of this pandemic?
You know, I think probably the biggest leadership challenge that I experienced, and hopefully it was a good opportunity to role model for my team, is the ability to act quickly and decisively when you need to. Now, human services organizations are known for talking things to death, and we can have meetings upon meetings, and we really didn't have the luxury of being able to do that. So I think that whole ability to kind of get out there in front of things, not wait to see what the rest of the world is doing, but to figure out what we need to do, was probably the biggest challenge that we had. You know, I think from a real personal standpoint, the need to take things seriously and demonstrate that we're on top of things was really paramount, but also the message of not overreacting and going off the deep end. I know when we heard back in March that schools were going to be closing and we were going to be going on a shutdown, you know, people were starting to kind of go crazy when they heard that. What are we going to do? How are we going to manage that? Will we be open? All of those things. So the ability to kind of balance that decisiveness with some just kind of calm and focused leadership is really what we had to do.
Focused leadership. Could not have said it better, Jeff. Thank you for sharing that. And also, same question, I'm going to go to Kathy in terms of how has your leadership had to change? How did you respond? I know Jeff talked about agility and being agile. What are some things that you can share about how your leadership pivoted or not?
No, definitely. I can't imagine an organization not changing during this time. One of our cultural beliefs is rise up. And I think never more before was this an opportunity for our team. And we look at leadership at all levels of the organization. We found leaders in very unusual places during all of this as people who were frontline tellers who really understood Zoom, for example, or technology, were able to suddenly train others of us who had never used it before. But I think our senior team really showed, I thought of 3 words when you said this, communication. They were communicating almost daily with us about what's happening, what are we doing, what are we thinking, you know, how can we help you? Creativity, again, being very creative in how we delivered our service to our members, how we responded to our employees, their own fears, the level of work that we had. Unlike other businesses, we've been extremely busy. We've done more mortgage lending this year than in many, many years. And then I think the other thing that really got elevated during this time was trust. Really just trusting that when you don't have all your people physically in the building, when you don't have the ability to be physically there with your people all the time, just really trusting that they're going to do their jobs and going to be productive and are going to rise up and take care of the situation. And I think we really found in that respect, our team came together more than ever. We have 26 branch locations. So, and I know US Venture has multiple locations, Oshkosh has multiple locations. So this actually in many ways brought us together in an odd way because we were really forced to work across branches and have conversations with people we haven't always had conversations with before.
Communication and conversations, distinguished audience members, make sure you're having it. Conversations and communication. I love it. Thank you, Kathy. Jody, your perspective.
Yeah. From my perspective here at Oshkosh, we really use our people first culture as what really kind of our leadership had to come forward with and continue to enhance. We talk about that every day, and communication was a key part of it, right? So we use the term frequently meaningful conversations, connecting with your people, understanding where they're at, making sure that you know what's going on in their life outside of the 4 walls of our business, because there's a lot happening to them and you have to meet them where they're at this point in time. So that was key to us. Transparency, I think Kathy said that also, being very transparent with where our business was along
the whole journey and still where it is today, right? They needed to know those were some of their worries and fears. And so how could we let them know what it meant to us and most importantly to them? And then I think the most important thing is doing the right thing, right? Making those tough decisions. It's easy to take shortcuts when things are going crazy all around you, but how do you stick to that and continue to make sure that we as a team and as an organization are doing the right thing, for our team members and for our communities? So those three things really come to mind. And I think, our leadership team really stood up and said, these are the things that we have to portray for all of our employees each and every day. And it will get us through this.
People first, transparency, and do the right thing. Ladies and gentlemen, and this is a free Zoom meeting, and y'all getting all this amazing, incredible advice. Who else is spending their morning like this but us? We are winning. We are truly winning. Thank you again, Jody. Maria, your perspectives on leadership.
Well, I agree with what everybody has said so far. I think the additive for us, absolutely being very transparent and open with the team, being very decisive in an ambiguous time. I think the other thing that I will add to that is really helping the team understand the sphere of control where we do have influence and how we make sure that we are maximizing those opportunities and putting the right plans in place to be ready to move forward. But then there's this other sphere that we don't control. And so really making sure that we're very, very clear on what are the trigger points. We have a lot of conversations about go, no-go plans. And we have a lot of contingency planning and really making sure that if we have the sphere of what we can control solidly in place, it will allow us to maximize the opportunities for the external forces that we can't control and make sure that we don't miss those opportunities to engage our staff and our communities in a safe way.
Awesome. I'm just so excited about the incredible work that y'all are doing and continue doing. Now, Greg, because I know we've got about 4 minutes left. You've already proven your exceptional leadership capabilities by displaying that you had Matthew McConaughey at the U.S. Venture Open. So we're not even going to ask you about that. You've demonstrated that effectively already. But I do, in closing, want to start with you, Greg. And this question will be for all of our distinguished panelists before we go to our break. Now that we've gained an awareness in terms of how each of you have managed and the core values and fundamental principles that you've applied as it relates to the pandemic. Now let's talk about the future and the possibilities. And so, Greg, I want to start with you in closing. If you could give us one word before we go on our break, one word to describe what does the future look like for U.S. Venture starting today and beyond. Give us one word.
I would say authenticity.
Great word. I'm just going to go clockwise. Grandpa Jeff, one word.
Opportunity.
Opportunity. Love it. Jody.
I got to cheat with 2 words, but better together.
Better together. That's your bonus word. I love it. Kathy.
So our word is meiraki. It's a Greek word that means to do something with soul, creativity, and love, and to put something of yourself into your work. And that speaks to me, speaks to the giving we do, it speaks to our whole organization.
Love it. A great word. Maria.
When I think of the one word of what the future of the Performing Arts Center looks like, it's dynamic.
I love it. Dynamic. That's one of my favorite words. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank y'all so much for sharing your wisdom, your expertise, and being transparent. Also, to our audience members, want to thank you again, because we know that during this time of having candid discussions and being able to talk about difficult decisions is all part of what we need to do collectively to begin to continue moving forward. So we are going to take a break. So feel free to stretch your legs, refill your coffee, or as they do in the UK, your tea, and come back refreshed and ready to engage. We will also have a poll pop up on your screen. Please submit your answers during this time. If you have, or let me say it this way, your questions that you have for our panelists, Feel free to submit them using the Q&A box on your screen, and our large Q&A session will begin promptly at 11:10 a.m. So we will see you in about 10 minutes. Thank you so much.
Well, welcome back, everyone. Thank you for everyone who participated in the poll. It looks like we've all been facing some different struggles during this time at home. And I hope you all enjoyed this last hour with our panelists. We're very excited to jump into our Q&A session with them. But before we do that, I'd like to give the floor to another one of our panel sponsors, Jody Larson, who you've actually been talking with or hearing from for the last hour, but she has a special message on behalf of Oshkosh Corporation.
Hi, my name is Jody Larson. I lead community engagement at Oshkosh Corporation. At Oshkosh Corporation, our giving philosophy is important to us. Each year, our Oshkosh Corporation Foundation gives away over $1 million a year. Our overall focus is to help solve poverty. We do that in a couple of different areas. We want to look at basic needs and making sure the basic needs of food and shelter are met. We also want to make sure that individuals can sustain a livable wage. But also important to us is our youth. We know that they're our future, so making sure that they have the skill sets to either enter the workforce or to continue on with education is important to our giving philosophy and what we do in our community. But we also know it's really important for our team members to give time and talent. One thing we did about 3 years ago, we started an enormous event called Feed the Body, Feed the Soul. And if you haven't joined us for that, please do some here. In one day, we package over 200,000 pounds of staple food products that goes to Northeast Wisconsin. We have a little bit of fun when we do it with some music in the background to jam to while you're packing, but it's a great event. And if you haven't joined us, please come out and do so. We know this year was tough. That pandemic didn't allow that event to happen, but we'll be back stronger than ever next year. So thank you to all of those who are here today. Thank you for supporting our great nonprofits in the area. And as Oshkosh, we want to partner with you because we know that we're better together.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Jody. Audience members, I don't even have to ask this, but I hope that each of you had a great break. You are reinvigorated and ready for more. And thank you for submitting your questions during the panel discussion as well as the break. We've got a ton of great questions. The committee has curated the questions so we can hear from all of our panelists. Panelists, thank you also so much again for your time today. Let's get into these questions. Our first question is, panelists have talked a lot about the importance of relationships and fundraising success through the pandemic. This can lead to an environment in which the winners keep winning, so to speak. How have you built new relationships during this time with organizations that were not on your radar before COVID-19 changed everything? And so anyone who wants to jump in.
I can start, but I can say I'm probably not going to answer the question the way the person who asked it would like to hear it. Very candidly, during this time, those relationships were critically important. And because we built those longstanding relationships, we wanted to make sure that we had the funds that would be directed to the organizations that mattered the most to us. So for a very limited time, we weren't even considering requests from new organizations. We felt like it wasn't the year to be considering new relationships. That's opened up a little bit more now, and we give very, very broadly, I hate to keep beating that horn, but it really for us was about those relationships, and I don't like to look at it as the winners keep winning. It's really more about honoring those partnerships that we have had for years and years and years, and making sure that those organizations that mattered the most to us were taken care of.
Thank you, Kathy. Yes, Maria.
I was going to say, I can jump in from the nonprofit side. Now, as the Fox Cities Performing Arts Center, we have always really thrived on partnerships and connections, and we've worked very hard to connect more people in our community through our relationships with other nonprofits. And that has continued in this COVID pandemic era, where we found ourselves once again taking that step back, as we often do, to say what segments of the community might be missed right now, might be overlooked, and how can the arts help provide a connecting point for conversation and creating a sense of belonging. So highlighting and heightening some of the partnerships and conversations that we've been having in the past, but maybe haven't locked into, with Catalpa Health, for example, and some other service organizations, to recognize that a lot of times the arts can be the entry point into a conversation that can really create incredible meaning and impact. And so we look to find ways that we can help shore each other up through partnership. We can help deliver maybe some programs or some connection points to other organizations.
Awesome. Thank you, Maria. Any other perspectives in terms of how your organization has built new relationships?
You know, for us, Denise, I think that, people think of us here in Northeast Wisconsin, and we are, but we also have a bigger footprint, domestically and even internationally. So, probably like Kathy, we had some core agencies that we continue to work with very close, but connecting others maybe to things that they didn't have, or trying to find a creative way to help others, whether it's through time or talent, whether it's through something that we could do within our business. So I think that for us, and those relationships that were established, could help us connect others, and just, again, I said it earlier, we're better together, all of us coming together and really determining how we can make the best of the times that we're in right now.
Absolutely. Coming together is key, whether it's existing or new relationships, coming together. Love it. All right, so we've got another question from one of our amazing audience members. Greg, I'm going to start with you. The question is, the world likely has a lot to learn from nonprofits about crisis management. I know US Venture is not a nonprofit organization, but before we go to Jeff, I wanted to get your perspective on, this is what many do as their missions. What processes or fundamentals are transferable to other segments of society. So again, the world likely has a lot to learn from nonprofits about crisis management. This is what many do as part of their day-to-day mission. What processes or fundamentals are transferable? So maybe some of the things that you can share that you've learned from your nonprofit partners, or just overall based on the newly instated innovations at US Venture.
Yeah, great question, Denise. Or I'm not sure who the question came from, but
this came from Shannon.
Awesome. So really appreciate it. And I would say two things. From the nonprofit side of things, I shouldn't be amazed, but I continue to be amazed at the innovation and how we've heard the word pivot plenty of times. And I just think of examples like Pillars not being able to have co-located individuals in shelter, and so they turn to hotel rooms. That's incredibly innovative and an incredible pivot. And also to see that they and we learned some things in that process, that the outcomes might even be better based on that project. Mm-hmm. And so that's one that sticks out to me. Another that sticks out to me is Catalpa Health, and how they were really able to flip the switch and go virtual with Trina would know this, but I want to say it's like 80% of their appointments were still being held, but they were all done virtually. And I can't say enough about that when you think of how the mental health needs rise for kids having to stay home and through this pandemic. And I would say from a funder standpoint, from a US Venture standpoint, probably the biggest things we've learned is we had to start walking the talk of we require so much due diligence on nonprofits rather than giving them the time to be able to do more in the programming elements, do more with their clients. And so how can we build simpler and more meaningful application processes that aren't so long, that don't take so many hours out of the day? And I would also say that the next time anyone questions you for having an endowment, just tell them, what would we be doing if we didn't have an endowment now? So I think one of the things we learned is we have organizations coming to us saying, like, we have 2 weeks, 2 payrolls that we have in the bank. What are we supposed to do? And I think we as funders, not everyone, I'm just speaking from how we've funded historically, we have to own that we have penalized organizations oftentimes for endowment. I think there's sectors that don't do that. But certainly in the basic needs sector, I think we saw razor thin margin as sort of a badge of honor. And now when revenue goes down and people are scrambling and people are losing their jobs, that's a fundamental change that has to happen as a funder. And that I hope I hope I don't lose that feeling of when the next time I hear that question about either, will you be back again next year, asking yes, or how much do you have in endowment? Because we can't have it both ways.
Absolutely. And Greg, you're receiving a lot of positive feedback in response to your reference to both endowments as well as simplifying. So you want to check that out when you get a chance. Jeff, same question as it relates to the Family Services of Northeast Wisconsin. What, again, have been some of the fundamentals or processes that are transferable to other segments of society based on your experience?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what I was talking about earlier as I look to the future, is that I'm a firm believer that in every crisis there is wonderful opportunity. It may not feel like it at the time. It may be extremely stressful or very scary. But when I look back over the last 8 months or so and recognize how we are doing things better, differently, meeting different needs in the community that we were able to do beforehand, I am just amazed at how we kind of embraced the crisis and the opportunity associated with the crisis. And I think that's really important as we move forward, because I'm really worried about what this winter is going to look like in terms of mental health needs within our community. The longer the pandemic goes on, the more gaps we are going to see in terms of people being okay. So whether it be kids or adults, the emotional, behavioral, mental health needs are going to be increasing. So how do we think strategically, not just getting through the day, but what are we going to be doing as we go into 2021 to better meet the needs of the community? So the ability to identify gaps that are created by these crises and then respond to them quickly is just a wonderful opportunity for any organization.
Completely agree. Thank you for that, Jeff. Just so you know, Maria, Trina had just shared in the text box a note from earlier. It has been so much fun watching your video and partnerships with community organizations. Thank you for using your platform in such a collaborative and inspiring way. So I wanted to share that. Have another question for our funders, and this comes from Mary. Mary has asked, with so much need, again, I'm going to ask this to either Jody, Kathy, or Greg, with so much need in the community, how do you as funders decide where to focus your efforts? Kathy, we'll start with you.
Oh gosh, that is a really good question. And the first thing I always tell people who come to us looking for funding support is that we are a member-based organization. The money that we're giving out is our members' money, and our members have very broad interests. So we also have to have very broad interests. So we very intentionally don't have published giving priorities. Obviously, there are areas we align with, and for us, it's all tied to, a lot of it is tied to that word community, which is part of our name, and putting community first and building up a community. One of the reasons we are such strong supporters of the arts is because we believe very strongly in what the arts can do to build a community and build an economy. And they're kind of the soul of a community. And that's really important to us. But we also give very generously in the area of basic needs and housing. Housing, you know, there's nothing more important to a financial institution than that American dream of owning a home. And so that is super important to us too. So for us, it's more about looking at each organization on its own. The relationships, again, are key. Is there a member relationship? Do we have business relationships with this organization? How many people in a community are they impacting? You know, for us, it's very important that we impact a really broad, a lot of people. But I say that, and yet at the same time, you know, right now, one of the things that we're working on now that I've fallen in love with is a very small nonprofit in Wapaka called Tomorrow's Children. They help youth that are extremely mentally ill or who have been traumatized, and they need a therapy dog. So I would say for us, one of the things we like is the ability to really engage our members as well as our employees. We are never going to just write a check. We do not write a check. So like in this case with Tomorrow's Children, we created a match. We have radio advertising for them, trying to help the community. These people don't know anything really about fundraising. So we've taken that on for them. And I know I'm talking a really long time, but I love this little organization. So I think what I'm trying to say is it's so broad for us that it really, again, I hate to keep hammering on this. It's about who you are, what you're doing for a community, what unique way that we can work together with you to really make it a win-win situation for your organization, but as well as the community in which you live and work.
Thank you, Kathy. No, that was extremely helpful. Thank you for providing that information. Jody, want to ask you as well, how do you decide where to focus your efforts in terms of as a funder?
A hard question because you want to help everybody when you can, but you know, financially from our foundation, we've really, we stuck to the key priorities of basic needs, youth mentoring, which is part of our giving philosophy.
That was an easy choice because of the needs right now, right? I mean, you think of the most basic of needs, housing and shelter and food, those were important. But I think the other thing to everybody who approaches us is how can we help? It might not be financially, it might be the brains of these 800 team members in this building that I'm in right now coming together and saying, hey, you know what, we can help you set up a new computer system. We can help you design a new process. We have a really talented continuous improvement team that has gone out and done many projects for nonprofits, you know, of all sorts. So it's about both of those. It's about, you know, there's some guidelines around what we do from a giving philosophy for our dollars, but there's so many other things that we're capable of doing and our team members are capable of doing, that's how we like to approach it is, you know, if it's maybe I can't help in this area, how can I help in this other area? So for us, that's really been great. And the projects that have come up this year have been just so creative from team members to help other agencies out, rethink the norm, right? And that's what we're doing right now. We're rethinking the norm and the way we do things. So that's been our key.
I love it. Rethinking the norm while still helping the community. Great hashtag. Love it, love it, love it. Greg, any additional perspectives you'd like to add?
I would just say this is a great opportunity for us to, we're in a transition phase, especially when it comes to the U.S. Venture Open and the basic needs funding partnership. I think the comment that, you know, the winners keep winning, I think our way of how we were doing it was part of that issue is you needed, I think, a pretty high level of sophistication and a pretty big staff to be able to sort of harness the resources to get a basic needs grant. And so we've had great partners at the community foundations. The program officers have been phenomenal there in trying to find more innovative ways to be able to fund. And I mentioned it before, but I think looking at things through the lens of equity is going to completely change how we fund things, because we're going to start funding organizations and people that quite honestly don't look like me. And that is a really important thing for us to own and for us to learn about. But I think we're taking steps to build relationships with organizations, with individuals that maybe aren't as huge or sophisticated. And that's not taking anything away from any of those great organizations and their work. I just think it's important that we're looking at it through a different lens and that lens of equity.
Awesome. This is so inspiring. Truly, truly inspiring. We have a really good question from our audience member, Trina, and it is so thought-provoking. I definitely want to first direct this question to both Maria and Jeff. What in your professional world have you been able to accomplish or move forward due to COVID that would have taken you years or even decades to accomplish without COVID? What lesson have you taken from that to apply to the rest of your work and how you approach change? That's a great question. Maria, we'll start with you, please.
Well, I have one initiative that I know that is very top of mind to me, because we had actually been working on this for years, and that's how do we make sure that we can deliver the education programs to those students in our system who just physically cannot come to the Performing Arts Center for one of our daytime education performances. We've done a lot of things within our building to make sure that it is more accessible. We've been doing a lot of work, especially most recently with our community who works with people who are on the spectrum, to make sure that the building is less frightening, more accessible. So we've always been very focused on how to make our building accessible, but there are some segments of the population where it just won't be. We can't cross all of those hurdles. And what's fascinating is we've been trying to push that, and we've faced we've worked through a lot of the technology side of things, and we were really close, but we kept hitting the hurdle again with the artists and having them grant permission to access. And now all of a sudden with COVID, everything needs to be accessible via video. And so we've finally been able to cross that hurdle. And as we're having those conversations with our artists who work specifically in the education forum, we've been saying, we recognize that you're saying yes right now because of the crisis, but we want to bookmark this and start talking about how can this be a yes beyond the crisis for these students in need. And so I'm really excited that we might finally be making some headway. So that's one example. I know that there are several others, but that is one that we're really excited that that change is happening and that we will hopefully be able to institute that permanently going forward.
Thank you, Maria. And Stephanie, one of our amazing audience members, just shared with you, as a person with a disability, I really appreciate your efforts, Maria. Jeff, same question. What has your organization been able to accomplish or move forward due to COVID? And what lessons have you been able to take from that to apply to the rest of the work that y'all do?
Yeah, sure. Really good question. And I've got a couple of examples. And the first one, I don't want us to take organizational credit for this because the system changed around us, which was huge. And that is the area of being reimbursed for telehealth. We have talked about that for years, that's an area that we wanted to pursue, but the insurance companies and Medicaid and other funders were not quite ready to go there in terms of mental health treatment. The pandemic changed that again almost overnight. There were waivers from Medicaid that I think will now be permanent in terms of the ability to do mental health, which I think is mental health telehealth, which I think is huge for our population because there's a lot of people that can't get to offices, don't want to go to traditional clinic settings. So that to be able to accomplish that in a more client-friendly way is a huge benefit coming out of the pandemic. The second example, and I think everybody can probably relate to this one, is the whole idea of a work from home workforce. It would have taken us 10 years and a lot of infighting to probably implement some kind of a real comprehensive work from home plan. The pandemic kickstarted that for us, and it proved to us very quickly that, hey, this is doable. We are not missing much here. It is more respectful of our clients and certainly more respectful of our staff to be able to do things this way. Without the pandemic, we would have been talking about it for years before we would have been able to pull the trigger on something like that. So those are just a couple of examples of how the pandemic has really pushed us to be a different organization.
Great examples. Thank you again so much, Jeff. The great questions are still coming in. This is another question, so I'm going to ask anyone who'd like to jump in and provide their perspective. The pandemic has not been the only issue we have had to deal with recently. How have social inequities and all that has happened culturally in our country impacted you as a leader and an employer? Who would like to start?
So I'll start. It's a great question. It has felt in some ways like the year 2020 has been on fire since it ever started, right? I mean, some literally in California and places, but also from a social justice standpoint. And the thing that I think is really difficult is when social justice is politicized, then the conversations are polarized. And so I think we are in a unique position as both funders and nonprofits that we have some room and some honest, transparent conversations about social justice and to really kind of pull the curtains back on things, because we, as like me as a funder, I have one foot in the corporate world and one in the nonprofit world. And so I think the more that we can use our platform, one, not to say that we have it all together or see we've checked the boxes around diversity and equity and inclusion, but that we're learning together. And I think that's the most important thing, but that we're also willing to be vulnerable. I didn't grow up as a minority in the Fox Valley. And so I do need relationships with individuals who can teach me. And but also to not just talk about it, but to start taking action on some things, start investing in some things, whether it's after school programming or student support. Those are some of the things that I think this year, really difficult year, has allowed us room to be able to start those conversations and to start taking action on it. And I'm hopeful seeing some of the things that groups that have coalesced with New North and others around the issue. And again, funding is going to be needed there, and I'm excited that we can be a part investing in that.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing. Other thoughts and perspectives regarding our response to social inequities in this country? Well, yes, Maria, thank you.
I was gonna say, I worry that I talk too much, but I will jump in and say that every year with the Performing Arts Center, one of the things that we focus on is what are the social issues that are facing us as a community, and how can the arts be used as a way to open the door, to provide a platform for conversation. And Greg, to your point, hopefully in a way that is less combative and more compassionate and seeking to understand. And my hope is that as this conversation has now become more in the forefront, that we'll have more community participation in those events, and the community bringing forward those opportunities to use that opportunity of the arts to engage in those conversations. So many times we'll put together these incredible programs. I think about when we had Spectrum Dance Theater here, and we were talking about police brutality and what it feels like to be Black in America, and specifically the Fox cities. And they were incredibly powerful, moving, deep conversations for the 20 to 50 people who showed up, right? And so my hope is that we will be able to engage more people in those conversations in a really meaningful way to begin to affect change. And I think as a community, hopefully that's something we can all pull together once we can be coming together and make those things happen.
That's awesome. Incredible work. Thank you so much, Maria. Also, a little birdie told me there is someone known as the effective communication coach who loves to help facilitate those kind of conversations. So just putting that out there, and I'm sure you can find her if you just look a little bit.
I am sure. Yes. Important point for everybody, right?
Exactly, exactly. All right, so we have another question, and this question is for everyone. Should the current trends continue for the next 6 months? In the case that this continues for the next 6 months throughout 2021, what does the future of the nonprofit industry look like? And I'm going to start with Jeff, Maria, but I'd also definitely like, from our funding perspectives, what do you think the nonprofit industry will look like if we continue based on where we are today? Jeff.
Yeah, that's really hard to answer that. And I saw a quote the other day that really struck me. And the quote goes something to the effect that planning for the future these days is like trying to build an airplane while you're flying it. So I think, we are all kind of in this day-to-day mode of let's get through the day, the week, and put our strategic plan on hold until we figure things out. And I think the challenge that we have is to not give up on the stuff that's still important to us, the initiatives that we've identified as being critical to our mission. Those things still need to happen, but at the same time, we have to have concurrent planning around what are the new needs, the new gaps, and how can we respond to the needs that the community is speaking loudly to us about each and every day. And I can't tell you what that's going to be, because it's going to be different tomorrow. It's going to be different January 1st, but I think, again, the ability to be innovative and creative and agile enough to respond to those things while not giving up on your mission is what true nonprofits really should be doing.
Oh my goodness, another hashtag. Regardless of wherever we are, the agility, the tenacity, the willingness to adapt. I love it, Jeff. Wisdom, wisdom, wisdom. Maria, your thoughts?
Jeff, I could not agree more on the importance of being very agile right now without compromising and losing sight of our mission and the long-term health and success of our organizations. Absolutely vital. I also agree. I think the important thing for everybody to realize is, I think, once we are able to get back to normal, which, by the way, I don't think is going to look like pre-COVID. I don't think we're going back to that ever, but it is going to take a long time for these nonprofits to fully recover. And I hope that the community stays as focused and aware of that post-pandemic as we all are right now in the pandemic, because it is going to take years before we're going to be able to rebuild to the capacity that we were operating prior to. And that's going to need continued support. Just because everybody gets to go back to work and they'll have, in a little bit of a way, a sense of normalcy, that's not going to automatically flip the switch and make all of these nonprofits whole again. So the work will definitely continue, and hopefully the businesses will remain understanding with that and not say, well, what's the problem? We're all back to work. Why aren't you back on your feet? Right? It's gonna be a long road.
Couldn't agree.
Great point. So Kathy, Jody, and Greg, as leaders who play a role in the funding component of the relationship, 6 months to a year from now, if we're still in the same situation, what does the future of relationships with nonprofit organizations look like?
Yeah, I think quite frankly, we have to do similar to what they talked about. We have to be very accommodating and adjust, and look at where their true needs are and how we continue to get through the pandemic. I think listening is really important, and being able to listen and hear, how things continue to change. Jeff said it perfectly. Every day really brings a different, especially early on in the pandemic, every day was different, right? You came in and you didn't know what to expect the next day. So, working together, it gets hard after all. Everybody is zoomed out in many means when we laugh about that these days, but how do we stay connected when we're a really, close group of people who want to be face-to-face, sharing those handshakes, sharing those hugs, and just being together in, the awesome Fox Cities Performing Arts Center, right? Like Maria would like us all, but I think it's just for us to adjust and to be open to what needs to happen, right? We don't know the answers and what their needs will be. So as a funder, it's just really, having that insight to be very intuitive and a very good listener in terms of what they need.
Change is definitely inevitable. Thank you for that, Jody. Any other perspectives from our funding panelists? All right. Yes, great.
I just real quickly, I think businesses have businesses have had problems that now overlap and are really similar with nonprofits in a way that I think never happened before. And so I have found myself in our human resource meetings being able to bring to the forefront that the childcare system is broken. And so transportation is an issue. And so a lot of these things that I think that the nonprofit world has been passionately trying to help resource, companies are now feeling some of that pinch. And I think there's more opportunities. I hate the term win-win, but if you can create an opportunity that's going to help a business and help those being served by nonprofits and help nonprofits, I just think there's some really key spaces right now, like I said, with childcare and transportation and others, for us to be able to have that conversation. And another is just, Jeff mentioned with technology. We have been funding technology in a way that I never thought possible. I would have said it would have taken a decade to get there. But when you're talking about 350 students in the Menasha Area School District who have no laptop, Chromebook, or broadband, that's an immediate need that we have to fulfill. So, and businesses get that. And so I think it's allowed us to share problems in a way that hasn't happened before.
Greg,
and yes, back to Jody's words, better together.
I was going to say, you're receiving a lot of love in the chat box, and Holly Rudder said, goes back to Jody's words of being, quote, better together. All right, so let's now shift the conversation, and I know we're running out of time. I literally could be here until midnight with y'all. Y'all are just giving us so much wisdom and knowledge. Board involvement, board engagement. And for each of you, whether you have a board of directors for your nonprofit or as funders, obviously playing major roles in a lot of the nonprofit organizations, board of directors makeup, what changes have you made to either stay engaged or keep your board engaged during this unusual time? And this, again, is a question from Terry.
I'd like to respond to that, maybe to kick things off. It's a very timely question because I have a virtual board meeting in 13 minutes that I need to get to.
We'll get you there on time, Jeff, I promise.
Yeah. So if I leave early, that's the reason. But engaging the board is an issue for us all the time. And I've got a really engaged board, and we work very hard to tell our story and to get them connected to the mission on an emotional level. So that doesn't change whether we're in person or not. We continue to get our board active and involved in what we do and the stories that we're able to tell so that they can go out into the community and tell those same stories. So we've continued to do that, whether we're virtual or in person. I think the issue that I've struggled with a little bit is how do we recruit new board members during a pandemic? And we want to continue to build our board strategically, but people are so focused on so many different things right now, keeping their families going, keeping their businesses going. It's been a really difficult time for us, at least, to do board recruitment. Not that we haven't been able to do it, but that's been a real challenge. So I think it really goes back to being able to tell the story of the impact that you're making, whether it be generally or whether it be related to the pandemic. Those are powerful stories, and we need to keep telling those.
Absolutely. Keep telling the story. I love it. And thank you, Jeff. In case you do need to leave before we formally adjourn, thank you so much for your contributions. Your expertise has absolutely been of value to this discussion.
Great. Thank you.
Any other perspectives or views in terms of how to either stay engaged as a board member or how to keep board members engaged?
I have to say something quick, and I'll be quick, Maria, because I know you have something you want to say too. One of the organizations I'm involved with is the Nonprofit Leadership Initiative, so I have to give a little shout out to that entity right now. And I think, like any other nonprofit, we really have to learn to be nimble. And our whole purpose is helping to build a nonprofit, the capacity from the inside out. And there are a number of great programs that we have been able to offer virtually. And as virtual programs, they've now allowed us, again, the benefit of expanding beyond a limited audience or just the Fox Valley region, that we can expand some of our service offerings and in a more meaningful way. And one of those programs is Board Connect, which is a way to connect people who are interested in serving on boards with boards that they, with the organizations that are out there right now. So I'd encourage people to look into that.
Awesome. Thank you, Kathy.
Well, I had to laugh when you asked that because the Performing Arts Center, for anyone who's worked with us, they know we are an incredibly disciplined, business-focused nonprofit. We have KPIs like nobody's business. We have, our annual budgets, our 10-year forecast, our 20-year forecast. And so it was unimaginable to me that this year, as we were going through our budget cycle, my CFO and I, we were driving ourselves crazy because, like you said, early in the pandemic, February through May is our budget cycle. And we were rewriting that budget almost daily. And I finally had to go to the board and say, I cannot present you with a budget in good conscience. So having to work with our board in that way, where we're working on basically quarterly forecasts at this point. And even that's a little iffy. So making sure that we're being transparent enough with our finance committee and our board of directors so that they have a lot of confidence in how the decisions are being made and what's going into the numbers that they're seeing. But we are operating in a way that we have never in our wildest dreams imagined we'd have to operate with our board right now. And so that communication is so vitally important. But for a business that, like I said, it's all about how we're achieving the numbers right now. It's very different. The conversations with the board look very different.
Definitely can imagine. Jody, Greg,
I'll take that from an opposite side of the board of trustees for the foundation, right? Which are our leaders of our corporations, truly our CEO, our CFO, our CHRO, and so on. So, you know, they have a lot going on in their own business, in the business we are in, right? They have to think about how they're going to get through. But I want to let everybody know that they haven't forgotten about what's happening out there, right? And I think that in a strange way with the pandemic, that they have asked probably more what's happening, right? And how are we getting by, and how are our great nonprofits that support the communities where we live and work really getting by, and what does it look like for them in 2020? What does it look like in 2021? So I would say that their engagement, you know, well, it was always good. I was fortunate to I'm very fortunate to have a really good board, but it also just engaged more for them wanting to know how they could help. And so updates became more apparent, and commitments, and, you know, just asking those questions. So, you know, I share that as a point that I think that this community is really blessed, and that we have leaders of our organizations that do care. Well, they're right now doing the same things you are doing and trying to figure out how to get by day to day, week to week, month to month, you know, and what does the next year look like. They're also very concerned about how we continue to make this community great that we all live in. So it's refreshing to see.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jody. Greg, any final thoughts from you?
I just think one thing that has been sort of a silver lining in all this is I think it has recalibrated many of us on what's important. And the notes ending from board members or business division leaders or team members that say, please stay safe and healthy. And again, acknowledging that you'll be on a phone call and my 18-year-old son who's e-learning from home starts playing his trumpet right in the middle of it for practice. Or I've seen it, you know, others with cats walking across the keyboard and all sorts of things. So I think it really has created some transparency and authenticity in our relationships. And I think that sounds odd because we're not able to be together. But there's a vulnerability that I think is everyone sees. And so I think I'm hoping that us keeping the right things continues.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Panelists, thank you so much again for your time today. This has been an incredible experience. Attendees, thank you for your engagement and your thoughtful and insightful questions. We hope this discussion has sparked ideas to help each of you navigate this difficult time for your own organizations. Please take a moment in closing to just in your chat box, this is for the panelists as well, based on what you've gained today, just share with us 1 or 2 words describing what you're going to start doing, stop doing, and continue doing based on what you've gained from this insightful discussion today. Again, this has been an absolute pleasure. I'm now going to turn the mic back over to Julie for some closing remarks. Thank you all again.
Thank you, everyone. Wow. And Denise, you are getting love in the chat too. So let me just say you were incredible moderator. I've never met you before, but I look forward to meeting you someday. Thank you so much for doing this for us and for your enthusiasm. And thank you to our panelists. You know, it was a lot of vulnerability today. Authentic grace, everything was shown today. So thank you all to Jeff, Maria, Jody, Kathy, and Greg. We are grateful to have all of you in our community. And to our sponsors of this event, as you all know, we can't do this without our sponsors. And even in a virtual year, we have seen sponsors step forward and continue to support the great work of nonprofits, including your local AFP chapter. So we are grateful to have the collective support of our local community foundations in this region who are really dedicated philanthropic partners. And we're hopeful and excited to continue hosting this celebratory event in the future, hopefully in person one day. But if not, we know we can do it virtually like this and have tremendous impact. So special thanks to the Community Foundation for the Fox Valley region, Greater Green Bay Community Foundation, and the Oshkosh Area Community Foundation. Thank you to our presenting sponsors, US Venture, for your continued support. And thank you to those who have joined us in making today's celebration possible. Our award sponsor, who has assisted us in honoring our award recipients this year, is the Catholic Foundation for the Diocese of Green Bay. Our panel sponsor is Oshkosh Corp and ThedaCare Family of Foundations. Our AFP chapter program sponsor, Appleton Group LLC. Our friends of AFP Northeastern Wisconsin, O'Connor Connective, and our production partners, Amazing Events and Be Connected, who made all of us look and sound great today. So thank you to new partners that we need to have in these virtual times. We appreciate you. Now, you may have remembered that we had a specific offer on becoming an AFP member at the beginning of this program today. So in partnership with AFP Global, our Northeast Wisconsin chapter is offering 6 scholarships for a 1-year AFP membership. So due to COVID-19, we know budgets are getting cut. We know, unfortunately, training and development budgets get cut probably first in a lot of organizations. So we want to eliminate that expense for you who would benefit from an AFP membership. So 6 scholarships are available, and that's a little over a $300 value. So I encourage folks to apply for that. And as you can see, there are a lot of great resources within our local chapter and within AFP Global for you. So visit AFPNEWI.org/scholarships to apply today. But that's not all. So in honor of National Philanthropy Day, AFP is also offering $50 off a 1-year membership, and use code NPD2020 to become a member today and get $50 off your membership. Both of these opportunities expire on November 30th, so do it now while you're thinking about it, and check the chat box for all of these details. I can't see it now, but they're probably in there as I'm speaking. So we again offer our sincerest gratitude for you joining us today and for all that you do for our communities. We hope you leave today feeling grateful, inspired, and proud of what our collective efforts are accomplishing in our communities. We look forward to seeing you next year, hopefully in person. And one of my favorite quotes is, "We rise by lifting others." And I know we talked about that a lot today. We rise by lifting others, and we're all better together. So we have a chat room full of people today who are doing just that, lifting others in our community. And you are, true to the National Philanthropy Day's theme, changing the world with your giving hearts. So on behalf of our community, on behalf of AFP Northeast Wisconsin Chapter Board, MPD Planning Committee, thank you so very much for being here today. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Philanthropy. It means love of humankind. Philanthropy helps to feed the hungry, find a cure, save the planet. It inspires, teaches, houses, supports, and saves. Its impact is felt every day, in every community, making the world a better place. Supporting this work are thousands of dedicated professionals, fundraising professionals, building relationships, and connecting donors to the causes and projects that have the most meaning for them. Behind these professionals stands an organization, the Association of Fundraising Professionals, educating, informing, and inspiring new ideas, creating opportunities for networking and discourse. They conduct research and publish best practices, and work to ensure the profession and the nonprofit sector reflect the diversity of our changing society. They implement a code of ethics and distribute a donor bill of rights. They advocate, mentor, and lead. The Association of Fundraising Professionals and its more than 31,000 members in over 240 chapters inspire global change and have helped raise over $1 trillion for causes that impact our communities and our world. On this National Philanthropy Day, the Association of Fundraising Professionals joins you in celebrating the entire philanthropic community and its impact on our lives, our community, and our world.